touch the...
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order, the meeting of Thursday, January 24th, Board of Trustees meeting. And we don't really need to take the roll call. Everybody's here, and Marcia Croninger is here on the telephone. Hello, Marcia. Uh-oh. Hello, Marcia.
I'm here.
Oh,
You
okay.
sound a very long way away, though.
Okay, I'll pull this a little closer there. Well, welcome, and we don't have any items we're taking out of order. Do we have any citizens who would like to speak? Okay. Minutes of the regular meeting, December 13th. Have you looked that over?
Move approval.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. And any discussion or any corrections? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, communications, report by the Academic Senate. Is Dean here?
Dean is
He's
ill,
sick,
and he has
yeah.
asked me to send his regrets and that he has
Okay.
no comments.
Okay, okay. Beginning of a semester. That's okay. Report by Geneva, who is also not here because I think she's caught in Boston. And I don't, whether it's snow or rain or what, but she'll be here next time for sure. So report from Liz Auchincloss, who is the classified employees. And that was a great meeting this morning. We had a meeting in the big room, or the
Yeah, it
rec
was.
center, whatever you
In
call
fact, I
it.
just left. I was in a breakout session for breathing and relaxation.
Oh, so you're all relaxed when you come and talk to us.
Well, I missed the last 15 minutes, so I didn't, but it helped a lot. Yeah, I think it was a great in-service today. I think it's really helping the college come together as a community to have these joint in-services. I kind of feel it in the air that there's more cohesiveness than there has been, in past years. So I'm very appreciative to President Gaskin for having this happen. And the consultation group hasn't met, but members of the consultation group have been involved in the integrated planning and in the mission statement development, which was yesterday. We had a great session yesterday. Eva did a great job of moderating, and we actually came up with as you saw today, a one-sentence mission statement, at least to start out, a draft. And I think the process went really well, and I was glad that additional members of the consultation group were able to participate. And as I mentioned at the in-service today, most of the employees who were due to be laid off from Continuing Ed have now been placed. And they've been placed in a strategic matter, not in I'm going to bump you. If we'd waited until June 30th, when their jobs went away, they would have gone wherever they were more senior. So this way of doing it has been much more, it places them in positions that they actually match. If you do it the other way, you end up with more of a chaos than you do when you actually take the time. And Vice President Pat English has done an outstanding job of finding the right places for these folks. So I'm very appreciative of that. And also the fact that we are easing up on as I said, our hiring frozen icebox to having maybe a little bit of a chill, but not quite as a frozen. And hopefully most of those jobs will be looked at and will be replaced, especially some of the ones in instruction and in grounds. So I'm real happy with the direction we're going in, and I look forward to having a great semester this time.
And when we do the jobs, I always feel like after we're coming out of it and we do have jobs available and so on, I always feel like it's good, you're better off for having done that, because you really see which jobs are really needed, and you get the right people in there, and it's kind of a cleansing in some ways.
I think it was very important to do it the way we did it so we could get the people in the right places. Because
Yeah.
and the one area where we didn't do so well at putting it, we were able to backtrack and fix the problem. So I think it's been very good to use this process.
Good, good.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we have Dr. Gaston. Thank you so much for your cheerleading this morning at the in-service. That was fun.
Thank you so much. It's been a remarkable several days. It's been a remarkable week and a half or 2 weeks, and I commented on that, but I did want to share with you several things. As Liz has mentioned, and both Marty and Marianne were there yesterday, we sat down after months-long work in preparation to examine our mission statement. And yesterday we recrafted a mission statement, and it came organically from our hearts. It was almost magical the way it happened, and it was very congruent. We had, 5 different groups, I believe, writing mission statements, and they were very, very similar. The one that is being touted as the final draft version is a beautiful, beautiful, I think, articulation of our values and our beliefs. So I'm really, really proud of the institution, incredibly proud. Today was another event. It gives me such great pleasure and joy to see all of our employees together, and it's a cultural shift that everyone is embracing with such fervor, and it's a really important thing to do. The third thing I wanted to share is that Liz is really quite humble. So I do need to reiterate what she was sharing with you. Of the 8 classified staff positions that we eliminated as part of the transformation of CE, we have placed all but one of those 8 individuals, so 7 individuals, into reassignments in other areas of the institution. It would have never happened absent your labor group's partnership with us. And Liz, in her leadership capacity with CSCA, as I mentioned, being humble, she gives the accolades to Pat, and I do as well. But truly, it is a win-win partnership, and I just really appreciate CSCA's ability to work with us toward a common goal. I have great news. I was informed by the Santa Barbara Foundation last week that we have received a grant for $150,000 to fund our Get Focused, Stay Focused initiative. And that is a remarkable thing. That is the initiative that is in 10th grade, mandatory 10th grade, sitting down with every student over the course of a semester and planning, creating a 10-year plan, and taking a look at what college planning and career planning is all about. It then is revisited again in, that's in 9th grade, in 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. So it's this whole notion of college and career readiness that we are infusing into both the Santa Barbara Unified School District, the Carpinteria schools, high schools, and now we have an external funder who believes in what we're doing. So we're really quite excited. We have a January 31st retreat starting at 4 o'clock, and it is our retreat to get a real sense of the role of the board and the CEO, and then to also examine in a very detailed way the board's role relative to accreditation. So that's a very important one. We will be revisiting your goals tonight, and one of the goals is to examine the idea, the concept of a bond measure. And toward that end, I am seeking and have talked with the board president, Marty, about the idea of a second retreat for the board to focus on bond planning, future bond planning. And that retreat, I wanted to test the waters tentatively for February 21, which I believe is a Thursday. And what I would like to do is schedule it from 4 to 7 and provide you with a working light dinner. Would that work out? Anybody? So February 21, we would have a host of outside individuals presenting to us, including, I'm hoping, our bond counsel, Dave Kasnoka, the bond consultant that I have used in the past, and a number of other individuals. So Feb 21?
Yeah.
I believe it's a Thursday.
It is.
Okay. Does 4 to 7 work? You want it early? I know that Veronica is constrained, so is 4 good?
Good for me.
Okay.
Good.
All right, if you could tentatively mark that, and then I'll work with everybody. All right, and that is it for my comments.
Okay, well, thank you. I was going to say, one thing I meant to mention to Liz, the one thing that I noticed at that in-service this morning, kind of, everybody was cheering and so on, but the biggest cheer came when the groundskeepers and maintenance people stood up, and I'll tell you, everybody really appreciates them, but they haven't had a chance before today, I don't think, to really give them the accolades they deserve. So So I thought that was just wonderful. They definitely, they got much more cheering than I got, or that Liz got, or anybody. So we know where the bread is buttered around here, you know.
I would add, because I had an opportunity to chat with one of them, and one of the gentlemen, and I would add, I think they are to be applauded there. I was informed they were currently without a supervisor or a manager, and they're just carrying on their own because each of them knows what they need to do, and they're just working.
Yeah.
And I had previous acquaintanceship with this one young man or with his family, and you know, I believe what he said. They really have a work ethic, and they're just going on it without being, you know, micromanaged or even managed at all at this point. Wonderful.
Good group of people, and I hope they hear us. I don't know if they will, but I hope so. We have reports from board members now. Committee chairs, and I know not all the committees have met, I don't think, but shall we start with facilities? Is that one that met, I think, the other day?
Sure.
Did it? Okay. Lisa.
So Facilities Committee met for the first time on Tuesday, and basically we looked over the notice of completion for the Learning Resource Center and revisited the notice of impending development, which we had already covered in the study session. Normally it would be the opposite way around. We'd cover it in facilities and then it would move to the board, but because of the timing, it was reversed. So besides covering those business details, we did touch on, Trustee Kugler brought up the question of whether we have a policy or whether a policy could be developed around building of buildings and taking into account cultural and environmental concerns, aesthetics, and sustainability. So Dr. Gaskin said she would look into that. It would be, you know, a policy that would override the facilities master plan development and perhaps fit into Chapter 3 of our policies. So that'll be up for discussion at a future meeting.
Okay, thank you. And ed policies?
We haven't met yet. We do have an agenda. We're meeting on the 30th of this month on a Wednesday afternoon. Our first meeting will be to select a chair, to focus on both long-range and short-range issues. And we'll have more to say about it after we meet.
Sure. No, that makes sense. And our fiscal is Marcia and Lisa and Craig. And have you met yet? I don't think so.
Again, we haven't met yet,
Okay.
so we'll be electing a chair, and also I imagine just jumping right into the governor's budget plans for the next upcoming year.
Right. No, we have things to do, don't worry. You'll be busy. Okay, any other announcements or anything? Okay, then we go on to 1.9, which is request from a citizen, Roseanne Crawford. Would you like to come up? And she has a presentation, and then we can ask her questions because it's on the agenda. So often when people come up, when citizens come up, we can't talk to them because it's not on our agenda, but this one we can.
Nice to be
Hey,
able to
Roseanne.
address you, and thank you so much for the opportunity.
Sure.
With the topic of my agenda item, I couldn't help but think I should bring a white flag today instead of an umbrella. I'd like to start by saying my request for this agenda item was submitted in July, not knowing if Proposition 30 would pass. So why am I here? The new year is a good time not only to reflect on the past year, but to look forward as well. What a tremendous relief that Proposition 30 passed and the college did not incur a further $4.3 million workload reduction. We must remember, however, this is not extra money. Over the past 6 months, it has been amazing and encouraging to see the collaboration and the willingness to work together this board has shown under very difficult circumstances. After attending several CPC meetings, as well as board meetings and study sessions, I have been impressed at how engaged all levels have been with many issues not knowing if Proposition 30 would pass. Salaries, wages, and benefits are the biggest expense to the college, 82% of the general budget. Previously, increases in cost of benefits have been offset by reduction in staffing, mostly support positions. This year, the increase in the cost of healthcare premiums for those employees having those benefits will cost the college an additional $810,000. As a taxpayer, I am interested in how this additional expense will affect ongoing classes and summer school 2013. For the employees that benefited by not having to contribute out of pocket for the increase in their health care benefit, in essence, a pay cut was averted. Some might even consider this a non-taxable cost of living increase. This, of course, is not across the board, however, because more than 50% of the employees do not have health care benefits, including adjunct faculty, hourly staff, and student workers. The concern is that attrition can only go so far before balance is compromised. Benefits are not fixed costs, and Proposition 30 expires in 4 years. The projections from Sacramento are not good, still looking at years of cutbacks. Yes, we are in good shape compared to other community colleges, but could we be in better shape? San Francisco City College, I'm sure, never expected to find themselves facing possible closure in March. Their operational budget shows 92% of personnel costs. For years, they have failed to address accreditation violations and have now imposed an 8% salary reduction across the board just to survive. I leave you with one comment. Mindfulness of economic stability without compromising the academic mission is vital. Thank you so much for allowing me to address you today.
Okay, thank you. And are there questions or any discussion about the item? Mr. Haslam?
I'm trying to find something with which to disagree, and I don't. I mean, I think none of us is wanting to compromise one iota worth of academic excellence. My concern with your comments had to do with the suggestion or the implication that we might want to engage seriously thinking about a reduction in salary. And, you know, we have the very finest faculty and staff on the planet, and I cannot think of a more negative message to send to them than that we no longer appreciate that level of excellence, that commitment to excellence. I don't think you pursue that level of commitment by reducing salary, unless there is, and here I would agree with you, if there were a crisis where we actually had to do that, of course, but we're not there. And as you point out, San Francisco City College had a number of other problems, quite aside from the 92% issue that you mentioned. So I appreciate you telling us what you believe, and I also wanted a chance to respond.
And classified salaries already got reduced 3 years ago. It went from 1950 to 1450.
Well, it's
So they
also
did that.
it's also
I'm saying, you know what I mean, but that was done already. Not that
there
it
was
was
a
good.
small
but-
segment of
Yeah.
classified, I think, that had that kind of reduction. But the other factor to remember is that the faculty and staff of City College have not had a raise in over 5 years. I mean, that in a sense is a salary reduction because our cost of living certainly hasn't remained stable.
Mr. Nielsen?
I'd like to kind of join in on your comments. I have several in mind. Just on what you just recently said, Peter, it's not the fact that they haven't had a raise in like 5 years is not unusual. It's pervasive throughout all of government. Our law enforcement officers haven't seen a raise, and in most cases have had no COLAs, cost of living increases, nothing. Salaries have been capped, hourly wages have been capped, cut, head counts have been cut. We've cut beneficial programs to our youth right and left, and some of these cuts started back in the early 2000s, and they've never been put back into effect. The message, part of the message that I got here from listening to Roseanne Crawford was, I really felt her message was more to do with, can we maintain the quality, and can we serve the maximum number of students, you know? And that, to me, I would agree with her statement there that that's more important to me than really anything else, without sacrificing quality, you know, and then serving the maximum possible number of students that we can serve. And there's a fine line there. You can't just go one or the other. It has to be a marriage. I thought as a new board member, I thought I would be able to, I would just stumble into all kinds of dysfunctional things, and I would have problems. As I learn more and more, I can see and appreciate the balancing act that goes on to keep the institution whole and what it's doing. The main point that she just brought up, and it dawned on me as she was speaking, was it wasn't the fact that San Francisco's having trouble, but it was the high percentage of their budget is going to labor costs, and that's a sure sign of having physical problems, which they now have. And I haven't read for the past 30 days about San Francisco, so I didn't know exactly how dire it is. But if we take actions as a board here, and I think we should keep in mind, if we take actions to put ourselves at risk by increasing those costs, then we're putting ourselves into possibly a dangerous category. I think right now it looks like we're in pretty good shape, but I think we need to be very mindful that if we increase those labor costs, we could get ourselves out of balance. And I think one of the main prerogatives or goals of the Board of Trustees is to look out for the long-term financial viability of the institution and to keep it whole. So I'm very pleased that the public out there is looking at this in an intelligent way instead of coming in here and making demands. I hope to be able to better address her questions of the issue as I learn more. But thank you, Peter, for jumping in. Anybody else?
Yeah. Yes, Marianne, Ms. Kugler.
One of the things that I think we need to keep our eye on is that balance. And one of the things I just want to say to everyone is that my impression of the Business Services Office and the way they operate is that they are very cognizant of that issue. And I am quite sure that we all, including our speaker, will have plenty of opportunities to hear from our business office about
Maybe. I don't think so. Yes, Lisa
Are you
Macker.
calling her back?
Were you done, Marianne?
yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
we probably lost the last bit. Thank you, Roseanne, for speaking in front of the board, and I really appreciate your compliments on the efforts we've put in the last 6 months, because it has been, I think we have had a dedicated board studying the issues for the last 6 months and trying to balance things. So I appreciate your recognition of that, and not only the board, but throughout the institution. One thing that concerns me is this idea of us cutting summer school, and I don't know why that keeps coming up. So I'm just, anytime I hear it's brought up in a public forum like this, I just want to address it and let the public know that has not been on the table to cut summer school, and I don't see it happening. President Gaskin, perhaps you have a...
We're building a robust summer school. Again, we're in a growth mode in response to the taxpayers and the voters in California supporting higher education. So we're able to open up sections, and we'll be doing so all next year.
And in fact, the studies have been more in-depth about what we are offering over the summer, because the students we serve over the summer are different than those we serve throughout the rest of the year. So I've seen the college working to understand who we're serving and what sections we need to really benefit the students in Santa Barbara that need that availability in the summer to move along their educational paths. So I just wanted to put it out there that I have seen no talk of, other than that, of reducing or cutting summer school.
And I just wanted to react to something that Ms. Crawford said, and that is that we have to remember that Prop 30 is temporary and it's only for 4 years. So when we do see the money, we have to remember that we can only do the planning on the money for the next 4 years, and we have to be very conservative about planning that money. So just, I appreciate you pointing that out. Yeah, Mr. Nielsen, do you have something else?
Yeah, because this has been kind of nagging at me, and it kind of fits in here a little bit, just a question I have. I talked to Dr. Gaskin a few weeks ago. We had a nice little chat, and we talked about, how we're doing in offering units in relation to the state's mandate or recommendations or cutbacks and levels. And then, I think at the time, she said that we were a little bit over kind of where we were supposed to be as far as sessions offered. And this morning I got a little confused during that.
They're two separate things.
It's two separate things. Maybe you could clarify.
Enrollment management, one of the keys to enrollment management is that you always manage your enrollment such that you come in slightly over your target FTES so that you can be guaranteed to reach that target FTES. So one of the things that Jack and I talk about is a 2% over, something around that. You definitely don't want to come in under what your funded target is, otherwise you're leaving money on the table that we could utilize for student support. So when we plan, and Jack is masterful at this, planning very precisely, and I've always applied about a 1.5% factor over our target FTES, our funded FTES, so I know we can get there. What Dr. Nevins pointed out this morning, for those who weren't there, is he showcased over the last 5 years, I believe, where we have shifted our emphasis for course sections. And it tracks exactly the priorities of the state in terms of, for us, our math courses, our English courses, our general education breadth requirements, if you will. So that's where the emphasis is. We've honored that. We've made very painful reductions in other areas that are non-essential, non-core. And that was gut-wrenching across the system. So I hope that answers that question. And I'd like to just get in the queue when you're...
Sure. Is that answer somewhat?
Yes, you did answer my question. Thank you. I was wondering why I just got this impression, and then I started thinking about it, and then I started to look it up, and then I ran out of time, and I'm here at the meeting. I keep finding answers to my deepest questions, and I still have a lot to learn. So please forgive my my asking and bringing this up. It's very just the long-term fiscal health of this organization is very important to me. And it's also, the youth of our community is extremely important. I felt like a minute ago, I forgot who said it about the summer session. That those students are not our regular students, but I think that a lot of our transfer students take summer courses because they come here out of high school, they end up having to take, and I know I did, take dumbbell classes that you don't get credit for and they don't transfer. And then you want to get out of here in 2 years, so you end up going to summer sessions so that you can get the units in and stay on the time frame. So I don't know what percentage of the student body that is that's taking advantage of that or why they're there, but I'd be interested to learn.
Okay, good.
I keep my fingers off the mic, it won't do that, I'm sorry.
know, I do
My
that
wife
all
says,
the time.
Craig, don't talk with your hands.
Oh,
We,
there you go.
we take great pride in providing throughout the academic year college readiness courses so that all students are prepared to engage in learning when they either transfer or begin the institution in fall. So summer's incredibly important to us. But I want to loop back around to something that is, I think, really significant to what our speaker commented on, And it goes back to the nature of what we do. We are an intensely human organization. Teaching and learning is really a human-intensive enterprise, and it involves teachers and staff and counselors and the whole infrastructure focused on students. And as a consequence, you will never see a recommendation come from me to go below in our staffing levels so low that, as an example, our counselors have to counsel 1,000 to 1 ratio, or that we have classes so packed and so large that our faculty cannot engage with the students in the best pedagogical way. It won't come from me. So I think we have to accept that when you're in the 80% range for your salary and benefits, that truly is the essence of a teaching and learning institution. It's made even more so in the California community colleges. We have a regulation, a mandate, and it's called the faculty obligation number, that requires that we hire a certain percentage of our faculty as full-time faculty. That FON, faculty obligation number, has been frozen for the last 4 years because of the budget. It's going to get unfrozen fairly soon. And we'll have to hire on the order of, I believe, 14, I can't remember off the top of my head. It's going to be large. That's going to up our investment in people. But that's because that is, number one, absolutely aligned and congruent with our values as an educational institution, and number two, a state mandate. And that state mandate, the goal is 75% of our courses taught by full-time faculty, 25% by part-time. So I just wanted to frame the dialogue that we'll never retract. It'll be a balance, because we have to have discretionary funds to run the institution. Thank you.
No, thank you, and I appreciate you bringing up these things. I think in this spring, you're going to see the fiscal committee working very hard on various things about the budget, so that's good. And I appreciate Roseanne bringing these up. Thank you. Okay, go to Joe Sullivan, who complained today that he's always at the end of the agenda, and he's not. Not. I heard you. Yes, 1.9B.
We can just move it to the end with your other items.
Would you like us
if
to
you'd
move
like.
it? I know. It's the way that is.
I'm too used to speaking without a microphone. There's copies of these up here if people want them. It's basically going through and looking at what was sent out to you, and then I put in a response to each of these items. What we highlighted when we had sent out the agenda was we had the items from the state budget. There were several changes to the community college budget, and what I wanted to do was, when I had some time, go back through and comment on them to kind of break them down and apply them directly to us. And the first one is probably the one that has the largest number in it. Of course, it's the $197 million for increased apportionments without specifying the use. And the Board of Governors is going to determine how this is used, or how it's distributed to us, whether it's through growth, what they call growth, restoration, which means that it's applied equitably across all institutions, or the other items that they have would be restoration of some categorical has been discussed, and also a COLA for the colleges. But right now, that's going through the process, and we may not find out until much closer to May how they're actually going to break that down and distribute the funds to us. But we do know that we have about $2.5 million that we'll see specifically from Prop 30. There's also the $179 million for the deferral buy-down. This will reduce the deferrals in 2013-14. Because we do have strong ending balances, it hasn't been an issue for us. But with over, I think it was 72 of the colleges this year borrowed funds on trans to pay short-term. So it's been a major issue for other institutions. So this will help the California community colleges as a whole quite a bit. There's 133.2 million in increased general fund in 2013 to recognize that anticipated redevelopment revenues are not materializing. This really is backfill. This is money that's supposed to be redistributed through property taxes to us. They haven't been able to close the redevelopment funds down as rapidly as they thought they would be able to. So what they're doing then is they're backfilling that money to us. And as those redevelopment funds close down, we'll receive it through property taxes rather than through the state allocation. Is that clear? That's okay.
But that's part of the closing down of redevelopment agencies is the state grabbing onto our parking garages and parking lots, saying that the city shouldn't be running them and we should sell them so that the schools could have the money. It was just, it's almost bizarre to me, because I love schools, of course, and I like the money.
You get to keep the garages. Did you see that? It was in the paper.
morning's
Oh, I didn't see it.
This paper, they
Oh.
just got notification.
Oh, we get to keep the garages, never mind. That's wonderful. Funny,
It's,
funny
yeah.
idea.
Okay. The next item is the almost 17 million to provide increased access to matriculated students through the use of technology. This is the online instruction, and it's basically creating the Chancellor's Office acquiring a software application that can then be distributed to all community colleges. And so right now, for instance, we use Moodle. Other colleges use Blackboard. There's other systems out there, a lot of homegrown systems. What the hope is to standardize this throughout all of the community colleges, which would reduce the costs across the board, but also create the ability then to move these courses into other areas. Is that about? You can always step in, please, Lord. And then change the census-based apportionment system to provide a larger apportionment amount to students who are enrolled at the end of the semester quarter. That's a major change, shift in the way we're funded. And what was discussed was it will take probably at least 5 years to implement it, and no one really knows what it looks like at this point. We'll have to see. Limit the state-supported instruction in community colleges to 90 units. The issue there is how quickly that would be implemented. I mean, there's also talk about countering it at 100 units. There's a lot of discussion out there. That's one that's going to be talked about quite a bit. The cost per unit would probably be equivalent to the non-resident tuition fee, because that's an estimate of the actual cost statewide.
Joe, could we go back to the one before, and you could give that clarification, or maybe I could just say something. This idea of census-based apportionment system based on students who are enrolled at the end of a semester quarter. So currently, a few weeks into the semester quarter, we do our counts, and then that's where the apportionment money comes from. So this is just the state using some leverage for the colleges to figure out ways to get students to stay in class.
It's a goal attainment and course completion mechanism. It's focused on outcome-based rather than enrollment-based. Indeed, you're right. So the snapshot that we take right now is at the 20% mark for terms, for semesters and quarters. We take that snapshot, we submit it to the state. Here it would be at the end. And so what institutions then need to look at is that infrastructure of support, that intervention that I talked about today, and creating that, I can visualize it, this conduit through which students flow from beginning of the term to end of the term, and how we package that and intervene and assist and help. And that's all going to take resources.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting. Craig?
I'm sorry. Yeah,
Mr. Nielsen?
it's kind of an issue that I've been thinking about a lot, so I'm still learning about this. Now, what we're going to be doing, and it appears in what Lori talked about in the meeting this morning, but what appears what we're going to be doing is we're going to be measuring results rather than just looking at what we're starting with. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, who am I to judge? I think a little bit of it might be a very good thing, but it's gonna be a whole different measuring stick, so when the first measurements come out, we won't have anything to compare them with, or will we? And how do we proceed from there? Because maybe when we do our numbers and we find out how the measurements are gonna be, and maybe we already know, we just haven't maybe told the state, you know, do we have a lot of dropouts? Are they holding in there till the end of the term? Or is the numbers gonna be really different? And that would be my question, are the numbers different if you know?
And I broke it down by ethnicity today, but overall, we have very high success rates at this institution, and they're well into the high 70s as a compiled, aggregated data set. But I broke it out this morning. African Americans are our lowest population of course completers, and the highest are our Asian students. And then it spans the spectrum in between. But no, we, because of what Jack has talked about in terms of our programs and our level of support, we have one of the highest course completion rates, student success rates. But nonetheless, this is a shift for us. And how this is manifested, it still has to be dialogued and talked about. This is going to, what we hear is that it'll be implemented over a 5-year period, and that the money will not be taken from the institution, but rather redirected into student support, so that we can increase goal attainment and course completion. So this one, this foray, in January, we know very little detail. You'll hear a little bit more about it over the weekend, but as this is vetted through the legislature, and as it's dialogued with the system office, then the details get worked out, and the May revise becomes then the really finalized version.
My concern would, and I'm sure it'll be part of the dialogue down the road, and I'm really concerned about who participates in that dialogue. But certainly someone is likely to say, well, if you are going to measure what happens at the end of the semester, you've incentivized a way of lowering standards. And that's, now perhaps somebody can come up with a way of avoiding that cliff, but it's there. Obviously the state is not happy with, or somebody at the state level is not happy with taking that snapshot at the 2-week or the 3-week level, because at that point the student enthusiasm is still great, and it's toward the end of the semester when students realize that they have to read a book. Well, maybe at first I have to go buy the book. That panic sets in, and so if we're going to deal with this, I think we have to deal with the potential sources of panic prior to the time that we come to the end of the semester. And with respect to who participates in this, it seems to me that faculty have to have some kind of buy-in, that faculty have to participate in coming up with a solution.
If I could respond, it was very interesting. We both attended a statewide meeting on Friday where what details there are were shared with us, and there was a representative, very high level, second in command from the Department of Finance there, as well as the Ledge Analyst's office. Both are in concurrence that this shift should happen. As you know, it was proposed a couple of years ago, and it keeps coming back. It is the intent, clearly of the Department of Finance, which is an arm of the administration, clearly an interest of the Department of Finance to incentivize, the way they described it, intentional behaviors on the part of both students and the institution to focus on completion, and to do so in both an effective and an efficient way. And efficiency is part of that, and that's why you see this online push from the governor as well. So it will be an interesting dialogue.
Okay, I forgot which one you're on, I think.
Well, we're on, the next one is to require all students seeking a BOG fee waiver to complete a free application for federal student aid. This does not have a fiscal impact on us, so I didn't put an analysis there. The shift of the remaining adult education program, including $300 million from K-12 schools to community colleges, and an additional $15.7 million from the K-12 apprenticeship program to community college apprenticeship programs. It has not been determined how this would be distributed among colleges, as some of the districts are already responsible for adult education. And that just, as we are here at Santa Barbara City College, in our district, we are responsible for adult education. And so it's, how do you then distribute the 300 million that goes to K-12s equitably across all institutions when I think it's almost half of them are responsible, isn't it, for adult ed?
And there's a phrase, critically important phrase, that we just didn't put in here, and that is that adult education in the proposal is focused on 4 areas, and that's vocational education, basic skills, ESL, and citizenship. And that any other courses that or offerings that an institution may choose to offer under adult ed, which is non-credit, would be fully fee-based. It would be the full cost of instruction. So we're, as I described it today, ahead of the game. Our transition to the Center for Lifelong Learning is doing exactly what is discussed here.
Joe, I just want to go back to the limit state support instruction in community colleges. Is that affecting our students for the spring semester already? So this will not go into effect. So when, and my question comes because how is this going to affect like science, technology, engineering, and math students?
This is 150% of the standard 60 unit. So there is understanding that certain majors take more units, require more units in order to progress, particularly in STEM areas. But 150% also, it's perceived, takes into account not only that, but also, and equally as important, the basic skills curricula that gets them to college level and then allows them to proceed with the 60 units of transferable. So the advocates say we're factoring that in.
And what about, you know, just people, you know, economy and returning back to school because, you know, they need more job training, things like that. And also, maybe you weren't a student at Santa Barbara City College, but you took 90 units at Santa Monica City College and a couple at De Anza. Do we have record that they did exceed the statewide 90 units?
So that's the detail that's going to have to be vetted.
Very interesting. Good thought, interesting. Okay, Joe?
The last item is the creation of a $450 million energy efficiency fund for schools and community colleges using the funds from Proposition 39. And that's 49.5 million of that would be for community college projects. And if it were to go through in the form that it is now, it would be distributed based on FTES, which would provide approximately $750,000 per year for energy efficiency projects. However, there's a lot of opposition to that, to it being distributed in that manner. There's the legislation, the LAO has come out, the Legislative Analyst's Office has come out against it, primarily because they say we need to rank the projects. You know, we should have to apply, get a ranking, do that, and go through that entire process, and that only the most energy efficient projects should be funded. It shouldn't be based on any institution or any area. And so that's going to be an interesting discussion, because the flip side of that is there are very large districts that have the resources to apply and get in line and put these projects in place very rapidly, and they would suck up the funds. And what happens, it doesn't, then you lose the incentive at these other institutions, which may have the ability to do it over time, but maybe not now. And I mean, there's a lot of other issues. So it's going to be an interesting discussion. But if it remains the way they say it is to be distributed now, that would be a great benefit to us.
Cool. Any other questions?
Just,
Dr. Haslam?
you and I had a conversation at the beginning that I think might warrant repeating. It had to do with the very first line that says, no change in student fees. And there may be people who feel that there should be a reduction in student fees from the $46 per unit price tag. Could you talk a little bit about that and its relationship to BOG grants?
Oh, well, the counter to reducing the $46 per unit is that if the ones who can least afford to pay it do get the BOG waiver, and that as much as 70% of community college students in the state of California receive the BOG waiver. And so it's not, it's not, that was the argument against reducing the fee, the strongest argument that they had.
It's also coupled with the requirement that for a BOG, you also have to submit the FAFSA. And then the federal financial aid kicks in at that point for those who are struggling economically.
So it's not, I mean, I used to think that it was so different from when I went to a community college where I paid $2.50 for the semester. But in a sense, because of the Board of Governors grants to a significant number of students, we're really placing the burden of this whole thing on about 30% of the students.
The percentage of students, I'm going from memory, percentage of SBCC students on some sort of financial aid is about 42%.
42%.
Which is low.
Well, the other part of the irony was when we went up from, what was it, $36 to $46, I was in Sacramento at the time when they announced what the net gain to the state in terms of revenue was. The net gain to the state was 0
Yes.
because of the increasing number of student applicants for BOG grants.
Right, and you remember the deficit that we were facing last year. I think it was 11-12, there was about a $25 million deficit, was in large measure because so many students qualified for BOG.
And nobody thought of that ahead of time.
Exactly, and we didn't budget, yeah, the state didn't budget, yeah.
It appears that this is out of our control,
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
but it's good to know about it.
Yeah.
It's a what?
It seems to be out of our control, he was saying. It's not, we don't get to decide that. So I thought one of our newer trustees would ask this. What does BOG stand for?
Board of Governors.
Board of Governors. I should have known that. Thank you. So they get relief from the tuition because they have a limited income or whatever. Okay.
And it's
I knew that part.
self-declared. It is self-declared. There is no
No checking?
checking, no.
Wow.
It's self-declared.
They just
Until
asked.
next year, right, with the FAFSA?
Well, then, and that's not even put into place so that we can check. That's simply to ensure that they qualify for Pell Grants.
Oh, interesting.
So if everybody
So
knew, they
through
didn't
this
have
then,
to.
Will our financial aid require full documentation now after this?
Only for the FAFSA, not for BOG qualification.
Even
But
though-
by virtue of the fact, if
Even
this
though
goes
they have
through,
to do it together, they're
Yeah,
still going
if
to
that
review
goes
it
through.
separately? That's funny.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay, thank you very much. We are on to board goals update. This is good.
yes.
Yes.
What, I think effective practice for any body or individual is to take a mid-year read on how we're doing with our goals. And this was something that the board wanted to do, is to conduct a mid-year check-in. And so what I was prepared to do is just to walk you through very
That would be
briefly
wonderful.
your goals, which is in your packet. And these were established over the summer. And the first is to provide leadership, as President Bloom so clearly articulated this morning in your comments, provide leadership in ensuring the college meets the standards of accreditation as set forth by ACCJC. And we'll certainly welcome any comments, but from your superintendent president, I believe that you are making very satisfactory progress in this regard.
So we'll have a report coming out soon.
Yes,
To
it's,
us.
yes, being presented to CPC for final reading on Tuesday, next Tuesday, the 29th, and it'll be coming to you on February 14th for first reading and February 28th for second reading.
So on Valentine's Day. we'll get-
It's the place I want to be.
Thank you.
The second one is institutional effectiveness, and there are 3 areas that you focused on: updating board policies and administrative procedures, and almost everyone commented about that this morning. That's an enormous project, one filled with a great deal of intrigue and interest, and we're pursuing it. We have an ad hoc group comprised of Marcia and Marty, who are representing the board very well. And tonight you have the first of that for official reading. Those updated policies come to you for first reading and second reading, and we have every intention of following the pace and finishing by June. So that's the goal. Review the mission of the institution. You saw the draft, for those of you who were here this morning, you saw the draft new mission statement, and you've heard about it. It is reinvigorated, I think, the institution, at least those of us who participated in it yesterday. So that's well on its way. We have an ad hoc, not an ad hoc, we have a work group focused on integrating our institutional planning structures. And that is both an accreditation recommendation as well as best and effective practice. So we need to get away from fairly siloed planning to an integrated melded planning. So we're moving along in that regard. Are there any questions on your goal of institutional effectiveness? Okay, board relationships, I will let you assess that. I believe that we're cultivating and maintaining constructive working relationships.
I think everyone on this board is working hard, so that part is good.
I thought Joe White said it well.
What did Joe say? Maybe we don't.
Do you want
Now
to
that
share, or
you
you want me
brought it
to?
up.
He was asked what really makes him happy on campus, and Joe...
In a video.
In a video. And people had wonderful things to say. You know, I love my students. I love being here. I love the scenery. I love the atmosphere. I love the support of my colleagues. And not Joe. Joe said, no, I think it's really the administrators.
That's the administrators.
I look forward to hearing from my deans. And he was funny.
It's in
Yes.
philosophy department, right?
Yes.
It's a new philosophical way of thinking.
No, it's Joe's way.
It's Joe's way,
Joe's,
yeah.
yeah. No, he said, you know, the students are pretty good, and, you know, the college is pretty good, and, you know, the staff are pretty good, but what makes me the happiest, you know? It was quite sarcastic,
Funny.
you know, in a loving way. Fiscal stability, engaging in prudent fiscal management. I think all you need to do is look at both the scenarios, the what if Prop 30 hadn't failed, you had a plan in place, hadn't passed, and if Prop 30 had, it is passing, we had a plan in place. So, and you're extremely conscientious in all actions relative, and that's borne out in your, both your fiscal committee actions as well as full board. Establishing the benchmark of a structurally balanced budget, you made that clear from day one to us. We were working along that path under the scenario of Prop 30 failing. We continue, although in a better light, to work under it with this passage of Prop 30. Determine the viability of placing a bond measure on a future ballot. As we just shared, we'll be having a bond planning meeting retreat on February 21. And then advancing the efforts of the Foundation for Santa Barbara City College, which I believe you are extremely supportive of. Any questions on fiscal stability? And then finally, emergency preparedness, initiating the planning process. For institutionalizing, we have brought to you a reorganization in Joe's area that institutionalizes the effort. And now the next step are the plans and putting those action plans in place. And Joe and his staff are working on that, and I'm certainly closely monitoring that on behalf of the board's focus.
Good. Okay, any questions? Well, it's good to go over these, and it looks like we are doing just, you know, we're working on all fronts, so that's good. Thank you.
I've got my
Yeah.
list ready for next year.
Oh, no. There's always one like that, isn't there? No. It's okay. Okay, any other discussion or anything on those? Okay, we'll just keep those in mind as we work ahead here. Items for future board consideration? Anything? Okay. Oh, go ahead.
No, but we have one item, it's still under D.
Oh, I'm
Under
sorry.
information. I'm sorry. Yes, and that's the Measure B, the issuance of the next series of bonds.
Okay, sure.
And I would ask for Joe to come up and address that. And this is information.
Mhm.
Okay. Mhm. And here he comes again.
this is to go over the calendar for the bond.
The calendar, yes.
And
on the
what I believe you have in your packet,
I think it's on the back of our packets.
it
Just
should be the
flip your
last page,
packet over.
actually. It's on the packet. It has the key date that really the board needs to know is that on February 28th, you're going to adopt a resolution allowing us to price and distribute the bonds. Leading up to that, of course, you'll see you'll receive preliminary discussion of that at the next study session. We will go over in some detail how much we're proposing to take down, why we're proposing to take down that amount, and we will be covering that with you then. We're hoping, and this calendar we should be able to accomplish this fairly easily. We've given ourselves plenty of time. So we're hoping then actually to, by April 10th, close and deliver on these funds. But as you can see, there's quite a few items that we go through. But the process for the board really is reviewing what we're proposing, the amount we're proposing, how we're proposing to distribute the funds, the type of bonds, the nature of the bonds, and then really then granting us the right to go out and take down another portion of the Measure B. And what we're initially, what we will probably bring to you at that time is that we're going to propose that we take down just enough for us to cover the next classroom building that we're proposing to build that's in design phase right now. And so that'd be about $15 million.
Joe, could you, in a simple way, tell us what's the mechanics? What are the mechanics of going out and selling bonds? Who buys them?
Well,
Who
we
sells them?
have an underwriter who actually works very closely with us, and we have an attorney, David Kasnoka, who works very closely with us. What they do is we put together the proposal. The underwriters then go back basically within their organization. They research to determine what the pricing would be on the date that we propose to distribute them. They estimate that. As it gets closer, it becomes much closer and closer. And then, as you can see, when we pre-price the bonds on March 26th, and we actually price them on March 27th. But up until that time, we'll be receiving reports almost constantly on what the pricing of the bonds will be and what the nature of the bonds will be, how they see, how the underwriters believe they can actually distribute the bonds, at what price. And it's once we establish the price, then they go out and they sell the bonds. And once those bonds are sold, and we can close it, then they are distributed to us. And I guess that's kind of the simple method. That's a simple process, but it really is working with the underwriters.
The bonds are sold through a market mechanism?
Yes. It's the bond market. It's distributed nationally.
So anyone can buy these?
Anyone can buy. We can also, there's things you can do. We could set aside, which we did last time, a certain percentage of the funds to be sold in Santa Barbara. And so they'll be distributed to basically underwriters here, distributors here. And the first opportunity would be for people in the community to invest in those bonds. Of course, if they weren't able to sell them here, then they would expand them to the rest of the market. But it's an opportunity. We had, last time, there was no problem in selling the local amounts. We had, people were very anxious to acquire them.
Yeah, Greg?
Oh, if you've finished.
Well, so the pivotal point in determining the price is set by the underwriter. That's a key.
It is, but they follow the markets very closely. We will get, as it gets closer, we get literally daily market updates, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, depending on how the market's going, because it's critical that we price them at the best benefit that we can to our taxpayers, which means we look for the lowest rates. And so a lot of that depends on our ratings, the state ratings. We're fortunate. We have the highest rating of any community college in California. So that's held us in good stead last time. It is a true benefit to us as far as pricing those bonds.
Thanks.
But they're a good deal for investors, too. They look for this kind of thing, so.
They're
Yes,
stable.
they are.
So it's a
Yeah,
good
we're
thing.
not talking, actually, because we do have a very high rating, you're talking hundreds of a point, a few hundred points. You're not talking like a percent or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's a small amount, but over $15 million, it becomes significant over the time of the bonds.
The way the market works is, it's pretty much based on what people are willing to buy. So it's really an investor driven. They put it out there at a price they hope to get. If it doesn't sell well, then they got to come back and make the price more attractive. So the really experts usually hit it pretty darn close. If they put it out there and it sells real fast, they probably introduced it too low. So the price of the bonds really comes down to what the buyers are willing to pay to buy the bonds. And then I had a different question.
Yeah, they're very good at, if it goes out and there's too much activity initially, and they know how to judge this very closely. I mean, we're doing a very small bond this time though, but with larger amounts, they're able to actually pull back, reprice, redistribute fairly quickly, either up or down. Of course, you always want it to go down, not up, but that's the way it is.
So my question is related to this. This is, hopefully the economy's going to get better, and in 10 years it's going to be wonderful. We're taking out these bonds and we're looking to do new projects and build new buildings that we're planning on. At some point, and between as we complete the construction stages and we sell the bonds as we need the money, at some point, these bonds are, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, sometimes longer, but bonds. We have the cost of interest on these bonds for this period of time, but at some point the bonds become, they become due. How is, as we take out more bond money to build this construction, to make these new buildings, how is this going to affect our financial numbers down the line? Are we hoping for increased student enrollment to make up for?
No.
This is on the assessed valuation of property owners. That's how the bonds are paid.
Okay.
These are Prop 39 bonds, and
Okay.
so they're based upon the assessed valuation.
These particular bonds.
All of the capital outlay bonds that we would have would be under Prop 39 facility bonds, and they're on the property owners.
Yes, so we currently, the county has set our collection rate at $8.50 per 100,000 of assessed property value. So when you receive, if you're in our district and you own a home, when you receive that property tax statement, there's a line right on there for Santa Barbara City College. I get calls every year about this. And it does state exactly how much is going to us based on your assessed valuation. We're fortunate in Santa Barbara in that in other areas, the assessed valuation for homes actually dropped. Ours is not risen as much as our projections, 3 years ago would have wanted them to be, but we're fortunate in that they didn't drop. So we're still under what we promised the voters, and with this next offering, we expect to still remain under the $8.50 per 100,000 that we committed to the voters. And so for us, that's very good, given the way the housing market has gone.
And the voters voted on that, what was it, 3 years ago?
3 years ago.
Okay, there you go.
I asked the question in large part because people are going to be asking me, so.
Sure they are.
Yes, oh, definitely. We will go over that in study session. We'll have a more detailed discussion on this, and certainly we'll try to answer all your questions then.
We can see that
Because it
your
is not
phone
an
number
easy-
is on the bills if you want them to be. They can just call you.
Yeah.
No, it's
Okay.
interesting, okay. Thank you. Okay, now, we're on to study session dates, 2.1, and we have a list of study session dates.
Yes, and the only change is that we are taking a hiatus in July, which is pretty traditional. And also November, we found that trying to squeeze in November where it starts getting quite hectic with holidays and things. So other than that, pretty standard.
Well, also our December date is early, so
Correct.
it's just fine to skip November. Okay, any input on that? Okay.
Move approval.
Oh, do we get to approve this?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Motion to approve, is there a second? Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Okay, we're on to 2.2. This-
Well, yes.
Go ahead.
And this is monumental. This is the first of many chapters that will be coming your way. You have already seen this as a first reading. And how we are presenting it, you may think, why is this duplicated? We're presenting it as a track change document. So the underlines represent new verbiage. And then we've cleaned it up for you so that it's easier to read. So you have two versions of the same board policy, one showing the markups, the second showing the clean version. So board policy 1100 is defining the district, and then the board policy 1200 is your mission. And we will come back around and revise that once the mission goes through the participatory governance process. But we're simply cleaning up the presentation as it now stands.
Okay. Is there any discussion or questions about those? This is the first reading.
So
Yes.
the only change made to
the
the
second
mission
reading, I'm sorry.
statement, this being a preliminary mission statement, was the evaluation section?
Correct.
Okay,
And that's tied to accreditation standards.
okay. All right.
Okay.
And this is an action item, so we need a motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second? Okay. Craig? And this is the final reading, right?
Yes.
Second final, yeah. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good. We did it. That's probably the easiest one. Yeah, one
Yes,
down.
It was.
Keep it going. Okay, thank you. We are on to Superintendent President. You've been talking a lot today. What is this?
She has all
It's
the
okay.
knowledge.
She does have the knowledge. Do you have anything to add from anything? Okay, there's nothing there. I shamed her into silence. Oh, well. Human Resources, Pat English. And congratulations on your new title. You took off the interim part.
Thank
That
you.
was good.
Appreciate that.
Mhm.
Good afternoon, members of the board, President Blum, President Gaskin. I am here to present the Human Resources consent agenda items for your approval this afternoon, and I need to ask for you to make a couple of changes. In attachment 4.1A, which is the actions involving permanent personnel, on page 2 of 3, wait till I know that you're there. Under classified temporary upgrade pay for Shelley Dixon, I need for you to please make a change in her title. She will be moving to the Wake Center Site Administrator, not the Wake Center Site Coordinator. And with that change, I submit item 4.1A for your approval.
Okay. Any questions? We need a motion?
Motion.
It's under consent, A through
Oh, I'm
E.
sorry. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, go ahead.
I have no changes on B or C, but I do have one change on 4.1D. On page 1 of 3, for Paul McGarry, his name is at the bottom of that first page. I need for you to add 2 dates. It says service dates January 7th, 2013 through 1/23. I need you to please add December 20th and December 21st in 2012.
21st, December 12th. Okay.
With that correction, I can submit item 4.1A through through E for your approval.
Okay. That's a consent item. All those in favor, please say aye.
Did we have a motion?
No, we didn't. I was ready for a motion. I was jumping ahead of you. Go ahead.
I'll move approval.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's good, thank you.
Thank you.
Continuing education, Dr. Freelander.
Okay, I'm recommending approval of item 6.1. These are the fees set for the new fee-based courses. These are all self-supported community service classes. And the ones that we're adding are listed in your agenda attachments.
Okay.
Just pretty straightforward.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. We're trying to give Mariana a turn this time.
Right.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That was painless.
That was very painful.
It wasn't bad, huh?
No.
Were you expecting a problem?
Did you?
Yeah, very good. Very nice. Take a bow. It's very good. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I believe we're
Sullivan.
on to item
Yeah,
7.1, business consent items. And I don't have any corrections or changes for any of the items.
Okay.
I would note that we did take to facilities committee the items 7.1E and F.
Oh, okay. Okay, any questions or discussion about them? Okay. The
Maybe,
Consent items.
Just for quick clarification, item D, Ventura County Community College District contract, what's that?
Oh,
If
because
I
we're
can-
going to hear, oh, sorry, some stuff.
I could explain that.
Oh, okay.
That is an agreement to provide resources to Santa Barbara City College to provide and develop curriculum, bilingual curriculum, in particular fields relative to our professional development program. And Ventura Community College District has a statewide economic development center, the Workplace Learning Center, and they've got resources to support that.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All those in, well, no, I need a motion. I'm moving too fast for my own good here. Can we have a motion to, for the business consent items? Let's see,
make-
be A through F, I guess. Craig, did you want to?
I make a motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
A second.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, now the business action items. 7.2A.
7.2A is resolution number 27. It's the budget transfers between major objects.
You want to take these one
We're
at a
just
time? or-
looking, yeah.
We can take 7.2A and B together, also resolution number 28, the augmentation of revenue.
Okay,
I move approval of 7.2A and B.
okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Are there any questions about this? Kind of came up last time when we were doing this last year. I think there were some questions. Okay, but we did it. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Resolution.
Oh, roll call. There you go. Angie, roll call. Yep.
Trustee Bloom,
Aye.
trustee
You're
Croninger,
right.
Aye.
trustee Gallardo,
Aye.
trustee Haslam,
Aye.
trustee Kugler,
Aye.
trustee Macker,
Aye.
trustee Nielsen.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Item 7.2C is resolution number 29, the transfer from ending balance. There are two items.
Okay.
Maybe just take
Can we do this?
1 second to explain what transfer of an ending balance is.
This is where we transfer from ending balances to specific projects. Both of these are within the construction fund. And so it's taking funds that were allocated to the construction fund for projects. This is taking those ending balances and applying them to specific projects. And the two that we have here are $72,000 to cover project management services for major maintenance projects, and $25,000 to cover the architect fees related to the renovation of a lab into a CAD lab, computer-aided design lab.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so can we take some of these together? I was just looking, is it?
We need
C-
to,
Should we do them separately? Because
we
they
should
aren't
do,
really related.
we should do these last two separately.
Okay.
I move
So-
approval of 7.2C.
C, okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, it's a resolution. Thank you.
I'm so happy I'm not.
I know. Aye.
Trustee Croninger,
Aye.
Trustee Gallardo,
Aye.
Trustee Haslund,
Aye?
Trustee Kugler,
Aye.
Trustee Macker,
Aye.
Trustee Nielsen.
Aye.
Okay, and resolution number 30 is the non-resident tuition fee.
Yes, this is, we do this annually. We set this, there's criteria that's, we're required to follow. And I'm looking for my papers here, but I know what it is by heart, so it's, we are able to use several different options. They actually give you 7 options. Thank you. Gotcha. I was looking through things. But the option that we actually chose to use was option 6, which allows us then to, we can do no more than the district, no less than statewide cost. And this is the average cost per unit per student that's calculated. And so the statewide average cost is $184. The district average cost is $190. To this, we can apply our capital outlay, and when we calculated our capital outlay fee, it comes to $21 per unit. So the total tuition fee would be $211.
I move adoption of resolution number 30.
Okay, is there a second?
I have a
Okay. Is there any
question.
questions? Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
A couple years ago, the Student Senate was disappointed that they didn't get time to discuss this. Has that been incorporated into the calendar or of review? Do we know?
If you'll remember, the difficulty with bringing the Student Senate into this is that
Holiday.
they're not here, and we were given a very short time to do this. It was distributed to us in early January, so we need to, and we're required to have a board approval for it prior to submitting it February 1st. And so I did distribute it to to Ben Partee, who's responsible, and he did disseminate it, but I don't believe they've had a chance to meet
No
and
time for
discuss it.
discussion. Okay.
Okay.
And you said every year you guys do this? Do you raise the tuition for out-of-state tuition
We're obligated to.
every single year?
This is meant to cover the true cost of education for non-residents. I'm actually surprised I've never been involved in Student Senate engaging in this dialogue.
Yeah, it was
But here-
quite an upset.
Well, they
few
wanted
years ago.
to, yeah, which was, that's understandable in some ways, so,
Could tweet them or email them.
yeah.
Actually, when we went and we explained to them the process
They
and
were
and
okay.
how it's set, they were fine with it.
Sure.
They understood how the process is, the fact that it's not us arbitrarily setting a number, that we do calculate it, that it's based on actual cost. And that was just something that they needed to understand at the time, I think.
And just so I understand, yeah, with the timing, there's no time for them to give any input, and that was the piece that they were looking for.
Yeah,
And this is a reduction
Yeah.
from this
So
year.
it's really an adjustment that comes annually, and that could go up or down, and then this year it goes down a little.
Yes.
okay. Yeah, Craig?
Kind of, just as a point of curiosity, and I guess I'll look into it, but I would like to, why is it's adjusting down for some reason? And that's kind of interesting.
It just went down.
Not much
one-
stuff goes down these days.
No, it went down $1.
Oh,
212
that's
to
what I thought.
211.
I didn't notice a change, but you said it went down.
It did. And that's just, when you calculate, the method that you calculate it out is trying to come up with the cost per unit. And, when you put in all of your costs, our costs were down, not as much as, and so it's a ratio. It really is.
I thought
Taking
maybe
your
you
total
just
cost,
switched
dividing it by
methods.
your total units, and that's how you get it. So.
I think it's a reflection of budget reductions over the past several years. When your costs to provide education come down when you're constrained by fiscal resources.
Yeah. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Resolution, I remembered this time.
Trustee Bloom?
Aye.
Trustee Croninger?
Aye.
Trustee Gallardo?
Aye.
Trustee Haslam?
Aye.
Trustee Kugler?
Aye.
Trustee Macker?
Aye.
Trustee Hanson?
Aye.
Okay, we have one matter in closed session, and we will do that, and then we'll be back in here. It shouldn't take too long. Action out of it, and we adjourned in the closed session room, although we opened all the doors in case any of you wanted to come in. So we're adjourned till our next meeting. Thank you for waiting.